Hey everyone, this is me, the Undead Viking. If you have watched my reviews before, you know that I am a big RPG nut. RPGs are what got me into the whole gaming hobby at a young age, and it wasn't until I actually kind of grew up and didn't have, always had 5 or 6 hours to sit down and play a D&D session that I really got into the board game world, if you will. And that was, about a decade ago or so ago, and as they say, the rest is history. But I will always be an RPG person first, and and board gamers second. If I have the time to play D&D and I have the people to play D&D, I will play D&D. That's my passion. That's what I really, really like playing. Now, I am always on the lookout for good games that have a fantasy element or even science fiction element that lend themselves to an RPG world. This is probably why I kind of, not that I don't like Euro games. I love Euro games. I work for a predominantly Euro publishing company. But I really, really like thematic games. I like dice. I like telling a story. I like seeing the game evolve in my head as I play. So when I was presented with Hexplore It, the Valley of the Dead King, I was really intrigued. I mean, the name itself, I read it, I was like, oh, tell me more, just like, and as I delved into the game system and how the game was played, it really likened itself a lot to the first time. If you go back, I remember when I had the basic D&D set, and then it had kind of a reddish purplish cover, and then the second set was the expert set, and the expert set for D&D opened up the whole wilderness overland movement type of campaign where you went to this place called the Island of Dread, and you really had no idea what was there. You just kind of got dropped off on a beach and you just started exploring. You had no idea. You'd find dinosaurs along with tribesmen, along with an ancient civilization, all kinds of crazy stuff, right? So I really liked the wilderness exploration aspect of D&D, and I think that's one of the things that I really like playing when I play D&D. So Hexplore It is exactly that. It is a hex map where you are exploring that map, finding treasure, finding things to fight, getting yourself into trouble basically, while ever looming behind you is the fact that the dead king has risen, and he is slowly but surely destroying the land. And you're kind of racing to kind of build yourselves up so you can face a challenge and go ahead and fight the dead king. So let me show you how the game is played. It is really, really cool. And then we'll come back here and I'll give you my final thoughts. All right, cool. So this is Hexplore It, and I am going to go ahead and show you how the game is played, but just two things. One, this is a prototype that I was sent, so bear in mind that the final game may or may not look like what you're seeing in front of you. And secondly, this has a lot going on, so I just want to touch on a few of the things you see before I actually dive into a game turn. Alright, to begin the game, you're going to put out these 4 hexes as the game progresses. If your players actually exit the map, you will draw one of these tiles randomly, and you will just add that to the map as well. Each one of these tiles has a letter on it, this one has letter G. These are A, B, C, and D that are out there right now. That's important because when you draw quests, they will actually list the location, which tile, what letter tile you're looking for. So sometimes you'll get a quest that you really want to complete, and so that kind of forces you to leave the map and go exploring and expand the map even further, which I kind of like. I enjoy that aspect because otherwise you could probably just muck around in here for a long time, right, and not really exit. But by getting quests that actually make you go and explore, it adds a lot to the game. All right, so up here, these are circumstance cards. As you travel, bad things will happen to you, or good things as well. You can run to this friendly merchant here, but a lot of times these are bad, cave trolls attack you, or a cyclops, or what have you, or even you just get afflicted by something, you're befuddled. Those will happen randomly as you travel, and you can try to protect yourself by traveling carefully and trying to travel safe, but sometimes speed is paramount, and so unfortunately you have to put yourself at the whim of chance. Down here is the quests that you have. Each time you have a quest, if it is located on the board, you'll place one of these quest markers here. You go ahead and put those down there, denoting that's a location where you can complete a quest. You can always just move it to see, okay, that's this wizard's tower, and and that corresponds with, you know, that particular quest. So like here, this is like that one I just moved is the A. So you can see here, like it says, a powerful magi used to dwell in the tower nearby for centuries. No one has seen her, so on and so forth. You may choose to camp here for one turn. If you do, roll the quest die, and you can get bonuses or whatever. And I'll talk about those here in just a little bit, but you know, that's one of the things that you can do as well. This is a power-up deck. As rewards and things, if you succeed and just by luck, you'll get to draw cards off the power-up deck. And what it does is that it gives you bonuses to your skills. This would raise the defense skill by +1, and that's what that is. Now this deck here, I'll touch on at the very end. This is the deck of the Dead King. That is if you aren't playing the game cooperatively and you actually want to have one person actually playing the Dead King and actually like actively using the evil lich creature trying to track you down and kill you. And so, but I'll touch on that in a little bit. And I found both ways to be very enjoyable. So, you know, and it just depends on whether you want to have pure co-op or if you want to play the one versus many type of situation. All right. So to begin each game, each player will get to pick a race, and you can deal those out randomly. You can choose it and so forth like that. Each one of these races has their own like abilities, strengths, weaknesses, so on and so forth. You know, so humans are the basic, but like say a dwarf, it'll give you the bonuses that you'll have to each thing. It'll tell you what their food rating is, basically how much food they have to eat if they don't actually scrounge up food as they travel. And then dwarves are stubborn and crude. Once per game turn for 2 energy, you may choose whether the group wanders and may choose the location they wander into. And so, you know, just a special power. Going to something maybe a little more different. Yes, you can play an ogre. So here you have the different bonuses, the same food rating of 3. But then ogres are unintelligent brutes. Once per combat for 3 health, their action that damages health may be negated as if it were favorite opponent damage. And so little special abilities like that. And while we're talking about favorite opponents, I should mention, so you can see the favorite opponent of the ogres are creatures. So if they successfully hit a creature, they'll do an extra d6 damage. And so a dark dwarf, their favorite opponent is undead. And so same kind of thing as you just have all these different powers and abilities. And look at this deck. There's a ton of them in here, so I really liked the variability as far as that goes. Now, each player then will get to pick a class. And so, like, in here's several different classes: a Beastmaster, a Scoundrel, a Nomad, the Brute, if you will. And each one of these has, like, a special, like, class. You know, ever since we ever played, you know, you never really, back when I played D&D, you never really thought of, oh, I'm a fighter, so I'm like a tank, and oh, I'm a thief, so I'm like a striker, I'm a mage, I'm a glass cannon. I never thought about that, but now, of course, we have that. And so, you know, like the Brute is a striker, the Beastmaster is utility, you know, the healer is the priest, you know, so you things like that, and like you have classes that are assist classes and things like that. So when you play the game, you can divvy up these roles and, you know, and try to have a good class, or you can just, you know, have fun and go with it. The cool thing about these is, as you can probably tell, these are laminated, and you do use, you know, dry erase markers on these to keep track of those things. And pretty simply, you're just going to take whatever race you have. Let me just grab one here. Just grab the human guy. And so you can see here, it's like +1 health, +1 energy. So you're going to go over to the health and energy. You're going to add 1 to those and fill that out. You're going to, you know, like the different, like +1 defense, +2 to the first mastery. And so, like, you find these and you mark those down as well. And as you go through, and then you can have, you know, your character or whatever with the abilities of the Beastmaster and the race human combined together and do it. And then, of course, they have a space for, like, you can name your character, how much gold they have, the equipment they gain as the game progresses. Here's your food track. And once again, this is all, like, kept track with a dry erase marker, so it's easy to raise or lower those as the game progresses. So I really like that aspect about the game as well. It really makes me feel like, you know, I have, you know, a character sheet, you know, and you have all your information on the character sheet, playing D&D and doing, you know, going on an adventure, if you will. So after everybody has their player, their race, they've set up, they've filled out their sheet, now what they're going to do is they're going to actually begin the adventure. Now, the whole point of this particular scenario is that eventually the dead king is going to rise, and he's going to start walking from spot to spot on the board. And what he's first going to do is he is going to destroy cities. That's his whole goal. That's his whole purpose. And as he destroys the cities, as soon as he destroys the last city on the board, he will then start targeting the players. Now, the players can at any time run off and intercept the dead king and fight him, but they are likely going to have to spend some time powering their abilities up, getting, basically leveling, so they have even a chance of fighting this guy. So, to begin the game, what you're going to do is, movement is a set amount. You might get abilities later on that will increase movement, but the movement rating for your party is 4. But you have to make your decision if you want to move cautiously, if you want to move normally, or if you want to move like with stress. And so with stress, you're going to tire yourself out. You're going to, so that's only done in like an extreme situation when you have to do it. But cautious movement and normal movement are important because of the fact that you can move your full 4, and you might, if you can see this, there are roads and there are rivers. You can move your full 4 movement on a road or a river, and you don't have to worry about getting lost. You don't have to worry about, that is considered to be cautious movement, which won't cause you to lose your way. Now, if you want to move overland, you have to move just 1 space to move cautiously. So, I mean, if you decide to move more, you run the risk of possibly wandering and ending up in a location that you don't want to. I'll talk about that in just a second. So, each player, every time you move, each player has 3 different skills in them, and they get these 3 dice. They have blue, they have yellow, and they have green. And they're going to roll all 3 of them. And those 3 skills are Navigate, Explore, and Survival. So, basically, what happens is that each one's going to have that skill, so they're going to start with, like, the Beastmaster starts with 2, 2, 3, and then depending upon any, like, equipment or leveling up or they've done or whatever, and the bonuses that they have down here for, like, their race, they're going to have a skill. And what they're going to do is they're going to roll all 3 of those dice, and they're going to try to roll lower than those 3 skills. Now, and the whole party does this. So if anybody succeeds in if everybody fails their Navigate, that's when you end up wandering. Each person, if they roll well on their Explore, if they roll underneath it, they're going to get 2 gold coins. Basically, you found like some lost treasure or something along the way, and you immediately put those coins in your gold. If you rolled for the Survival, if you managed to roll under that roll, you have found like berries or you killed a rabbit or something, and you're able to feed yourself that particular round. But if everybody fails at the Navigate, then you're going to end up wandering. If everybody fails at the Explore, then, it's just one of those things where nobody gets any gold. However, if somebody rolls a 1, you manage to find like a little camp that everybody can rest at the end of this turn, and you're going to get 1 health back for that. And then finally, like with the Survival, if you fail, you have to eat your own food, and if you don't have any food left because you've used it all your rations up, then you're going to start to starve. And so, and then that's actually another bad thing. Like that'll eventually kill you, and you lose health, and so on and so forth. Very, very thematic if you had nothing to eat. But regardless, if you do end up wandering, like let's say the party tried to move, that many spaces overland, and all of them failed on their Navigate, they're going to go ahead and they're going to roll the 1d6, and then they're going to move 1 spot in that location. So they move 1 in that location. Now, sometimes what's going to happen is that if that was like in this spot, that would force them to move into that spot that has a lair, which has a boss encounter, which, they'd have to encounter that particular spot. If they end up in a city, they'd have to encounter that spot. If they moved on to the same spot as the dead king, they'd have to encounter them. So wandering can have fairly negative situations. Unless you have, I should mention, unless you have like a watercraft, you can't travel across water, so you won't wander into a water spot. You will just re-roll until you get that location back. Alright, so after the turn is done, you're going to roll a d6, and then you're going to roll on the circumstances, which are up here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. If you roll a 6, you're just going to draw a card off the top of the deck. If you moved cautiously, you have the option of just not encountering the circumstance. So if you got a bad thing, you don't want to do it, you just discard it. You moved cautiously and you avoided it. Good for you. You pulled it off, right? Perfect. All right, so the different locations you can be at, there are in this deck, let me find some. There are locations like this that are a shrine, and like you can do special things at a shrine that are important. And there's locations, you know, like this that are a ruin, and so you can go there and you can have an encounter at the ruin as well. So there are more of those. But in the basic map, what you're going to have is you're going to have quest locations. You're going to have the different boss locations that you're going to go and you're going to try to take out the different, like basically bad guys. Not the big bad guy, obviously, but that one. Or you're going to go to a city and you're going to spend some of your hard-earned cash. Now, just to explain all of these to you, if you go fight a boss, you're gonna find the boss's card, and like here's like the Bandit Prince, which is right over there. You would then, you know, have an encounter with the Bandit Prince. If you decide to go to a city, what you will do is you will then, let me just pull up the city card here. You will have several different options as far as like the different types of cities that are there, and cities can fall to the undead king. Like that's how you like. That's a fight to bring it back to life. You have to also have a talisman to go to the shrine. I'll explain that in just a little bit. But so you have these, and then when you're at one of these spots, you can then go to the market and you can purchase different things, including you can like even buy a fortification plan, which will allow you to build up like a fortification around a city for protection and make a home base and things like that. Something that's really cool. You can also upgrade your basic gear. So like you can increase, like basically it's like you're buying better swords and weapons, and then you will actually alter that on your player card to like increase and go ahead and increase those levels and make your like swords and shields and what have you better as the game progresses. So this is all one of those things where as you're playing, you're going out, you're finding things to fight, getting in trouble, getting out of trouble, and basically trying to get money and power so you can go ahead and like get back to cities and turn in quests and then take advantage of those things. I mentioned the shrines. The shrines are another place where you can buy things. This is the only place where you can buy a talisman. You can only buy, there's only 4 shrines, so you can only buy 1 talisman at each location. But then there's teleportation runes, you know, healing elixirs, things like that. And then there's blessings there, which don't cost anything, but these are really good, like a blessing of haste. You increase your movement rate by 1. Blessing of the sun heals 2 lost health and energy before the movement phase of each game turn. You can only have 1 of these, but these are really, really helpful, and they don't cost anything. So those are also really good things. So, I should mention, as you defeat the boss monsters that are in these different locations, one of the added bonuses of doing that is that you actually do get to unlock the black market. This is actually a person that will move around the board, and it will have these different things available. Once again, like the Stave of the Dragons, you know, Bone Bowl, like really cool stuff, right? And that's important because as these cities get destroyed, obviously those markets close up. So it's in your best interest to defeat those bosses as well, even though they don't necessarily, you know, let you defeat the dead king any faster. The more bosses you kill, the greater chance that this guy shows up and starts selling stuff off. So that's always a good thing as well. So, alright, so you've taken your turn, you've done your thing, and I'm going to show you combat here in just a little bit, but what I'm going to do is now, after you've taken your turn, you've done your stuff, so now does the dead king show up? So what happens there is you're going to roll a d6, and if you roll a 6, which I did, of course, the dead king shows up. Then you're going to roll to see which city he shows up at. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. So you roll that again. Let's see what I get. I rolled a 1. So he's going to show up at city 1 like that, and then he's going to destroy that city. And then what you're going to do the next turn is you're going to roll to see which city he's going to go after. He's going to go after number 2, so now he's going to start moving towards number 2 at the end of each turn. And when he destroys that, you roll for the target, and so on and so forth. I was really unlucky. Now, if you don't roll the 6 to summon him after the first turn, the next turn it's a 5 or 6. After that, the next turn it's a 4, 5, or 6, and so on and so forth until he finally shows up. And then you have to deal with him. All right, so that is how a game turn happens, and basically you're just going to repeat that over and over again until you get to a point where you are either defeated by the dead king, because you go and attack him, or defeated by the other things that are going on in the world, or like you manage to destroy him. So, how do combats work? Of course, any good fantasy campaign needs good combats. Alright, so let's do a combat. Before I show you a boss combat, let me just show you a fairly basic one. So, here you have a Cyclops. If you defeat him, you're going to get 7 gold each, but no food. He has 16 health and 14 energy. And so, the way combat works, it's pretty simple. Each player will decide what their action is going to be that particular turn. So if you're like the sorcerer, you're going to decide, do I want force blast, do I want bolster pattern, like defensive things, energy, leech, threat innervation. And so each one of these obviously has a description. So, but the force blast and the bolster pattern, they don't cost you energy. However, you can see here, these cost 2 and 1, extensively. So, and then what happens is that each person will declare their intention as far as what they're going to do as far as their attacks are considered, and then each person will then they're gonna basically, you're not really rolling damage, I guess, in this game. So I mean it's kind of hard to explain. I mean, you do if the thing is that it is something that you want to like if it's your special combat or special target or whatever, so if like the sorcerer really hated monstrous humanoids, they'd roll extra damage because that's their favorite opponent, but they're gonna just do their basic damage. I mean, which can be increased, through different, by leveling up and things like that, but they're gonna do basic. So each person picks what they're gonna do, and then you roll a d6. Let me just roll that. So you get a 4, and then you'll look and you'll say, and so you go 1, 2, 3, or 4. So 3 or 4 is right here. It says dual target, health, and each target suffers a -4 attack rank until the end of combat. And so, as you can see, there's 3 different possibilities, and the 6 is usually the worst one. So single target health and rolls throw. If you fail, you lose your next action. Losing actions obviously stinks. But here, entire group health and roll a 10-sided die on a 2 or less. This damage cannot be reduced. And so, like on that one, like this is entire group, so it isn't a single person, so everybody gets affected. It's a force of 4, so it'd be 4 damage. And then on a 10-sided and 2 or less, it can't be reduced. Now, certain defensive abilities will reduce incoming damage. And so you could say, well, I reduced that by 3. Well, no, you can't because of that special ability. So you're going to take the full amount of damage. Combat is relatively simple and quick. The biggest thing you have to remember is that after you declare your intentions, you roll to see what the monster does, or opponent does, and their result always happens first. You can't preemptively strike them and prevent this from happening. So that's the order it goes in. So you pick, roll the die, monsters attack, then you apply your damage, and then theoretically, eventually, if there's 6 of you beating down this Cyclops, he probably isn't going to last very long. You defeat him, you get the spoils, and then you can replace that circumstance card with another one. Now, the combats versus boss monsters. So let's just go ahead and get out. Let's just take the Bandit Prince out here. So, as you can see, the Bandit Prince has a great deal more health and energy than the other one. And so it even has, the Bandit Prince may have been born an old son, but all sense of honor has long been stripped. He and his raiders have laid ruin to merchants and their caravans passing the west road for some whisper, however, that he is slipping into madness. The attacks become more frequent and more brutal. And so, you'll probably end up with a quest that asks you to go and hunt that guy down and kill him. Sometimes you'll get the quest after the fact, and that's fine. You can turn it in immediately because of the fact that you've already defeated him. And so then now, same difference. You're going to each declare your intention, how you're going to attack the Bandit Prince. Now you're going to roll a 1d6, and you can see that he has more options as far as these are concerned. And you can see that, he has his own little masteries, the player characters have. They have these little masteries here. They have these 2 different masteries, and then they have 2 extra larger abilities down here. And the Bandit Prince is kind of neat because he steals gold from you or food from each player, which can be actually quite debilitating, especially if you're a long way from home and you run out of food and you're not going to be able to roll your survival rolls to get back. So not everything is just going to be big giant fire blasts or like giant rocks being thrown at you by giants, things like that. Some of it is just going to affect what you have, and so like his big like second mastery skill here is the Garrote. Dual target health, so he attacks two people. Two unlucky targets suffer a gruesome attack and lose 4 health. Each target rolls survival. If they fail, they're bleeding and they lose 1 health at the beginning of each round. So I mean, obviously that could be really bad as well. So and like even like his defense ability is pretty cool. If he defends, each incoming attack is reduced by 2 damage. Any target who damages the Bandit Prince takes 2 health damage, which cannot be defended against. So, it's one of those things where, he's pretty wily and has, like, a lot more to him than one of those cards that's over there. So, if you manage to defeat him, you get the rewards, like one person's going to get some boots that are going to give them +2 to navigate. And then then you have a group award where you're going to get some power-ups, some gold and food, and then you're going to roll the 10-sided die to see if the black market shows up. For each boss you kill, you total that up, you roll a 10-sided die. So if this is like our 4th boss that killed, if we roll 1, 2, 3, or 4, the black market would show up. In this case, we did not roll that, but you could get him to show up on a 1. Obviously, if you only defeat one guy. So that is how those work. And then anytime you defeat something and like have cleared it out, you take one of these Hexplore It tokens and you just go ahead and put that over there, so you know that you have finished off that location. You don't have to worry about that. Same with the quest locations and things like that. So there, in a nutshell, is all of what Hexplore It has going on. However, as I said, like, overland adventures were always a thing that I loved in D&D. And I love the idea of not really knowing where you're going or what you're going to find. And this game has a lot going on with it. It has a ton of quests, lots of circumstances, tons of different variability with the races and the different classes. It has so much, of a different story each time you play that I was a little bit concerned that I thought maybe it would grow stale after a couple plays. But I've been playing this with my daughter on a fairly regular basis. This is something that we played this past weekend like 2-3 times before I did this review. And she just loves it. I mean, it kind of boils down, like, it takes away a lot of the stat keeping, so to speak, of D&D. And like boils it down to a fun overland adventure that you can do in a couple hours, which I really, really liked a lot. And it just touched on all those RPG elements that I'm really looking for in a game of this type. But let me talk more about that and a lot more in my conclusion. Alright, thank you very much for learning how to play Hexplore It. I hope that made sense to you. It's one of those games that when you first crack it open, you're like, what do I do? But after you play like one round, you're like, oh, I got this. And the game just flows at that point. Plus the fact that each person just is kind of keeping track of their own little player at the same time. There isn't like some massive, like big, like chart to take care of. Each person has their own little bit to take care of, and that works a lot, which is kind of nice because actually I like that because it does give everybody something to do, right? Everybody's rolling their dice at every turn. They're like rolling to see if they make their little rolls, if they make their survival checks, things like that, which is fun. I mean, it gives everybody something to do. It isn't something where like, oh, we're gonna go here and now it's just gonna be the wizard's turn to be have something to do or anything like that. No, everybody's involved. Everybody's doing something, and like my daughter and I really enjoy that because of the fact that it's a group decision, and in cooperative games I want there to be situations where people are having group decisions and deciding what to do. I don't want a cooperative element where one person says, okay, we're going to go here, everybody roll their dice. I like the fact that each person has their own special abilities and like uniqueness to them as well. And it goes without saying, I really like mixing up strange races with different things. Like here's this weird Stonemar race, so I'm gonna play a Stonemar scoundrel. Like what? Just like so. I like the fact that you can like kind of you don't have to go dwarf fighter. You don't have to elf wizard. You don't have to just do the prototypes or whatever and just do that same old aspect. time in and time out. Now, there's one thing I didn't show you, and I do apologize for that. I'm going to grab it here if I can dig it out. There is like a large like battle mat, if you will, that one person just kind of takes care of, and this is kind of like the status of your party or whatever. And so you'll keep track of like the talismans you get, like, you know, what your group movement is and things like that. What if as the Dead King destroys cities, he gets faster, so you keep track of that over here. Plus it's got some really, really cool art of the Dead King and his minions there in the back. So it's kind of cool how like you have that. Plus there's this down here, there's like these different difficulty ratings or whatever, and the difficulty ratings can be increased if you think that the game is being too easy on you, and you can definitely put that up there. And then what happens is that obviously like the monsters and the encounters whatever get more difficult, but the rewards are greater as well, so it kind of evens itself out. But definitely if you ramp up the difficulty as the game progresses, and you can just choose that if you want to, if you like, but you know, it's just I like the fact that you can, if you think the game is, you know, like I said, you need to take the punching gloves off and start bare knuckle boxing. You can do that. All right, so I mentioned this, the deck of the Dead King. So you can play it with one person taking control. They're going to have this deck of cards, and what it's going to do is that they're going to be able to do certain things that they're going to be able to direct the king to do certain things that are important. So like here, and obviously they get to move them instead of like rolling randomly. So it's like the Dead King, here's like a card that says, you know, whatever, and like, so as you're moving, and these are hidden, you know, you don't just show this or whatever. The Dead King must end movement on an unexplored ruin. This ruin may no longer be explored by the heroes. So remember how like I showed you that ruin that like you kind of move off the board, you can find that ruin, and those are good places to find stuff, right, for the heroes. But if you unlock that, then the Dead King can wander over there, and so if he goes there, he locates a powerful artifact which enhances his power. The Dead King gains unholy regeneration. He heals lost health damage each combat round equal to the number of bosses that have yet to be beaten. So here's a situation where the players go off, they find a ruins, they're like, yes, we got this place we can go, we can like spelunk it, we can, you know, find treasures from it. Oh no, you know, like the Dead King now gets to go use it as well, and so you're playing the Dead King. That's something that like you want to see that or whatever. Like you have different things where like you have, depending upon the number of destroyed cities, there's a destroyed cities marker down there. The Dead King may use the dark magic to teleport to any fallen city or to any point within 2 hexes of a fallen city. And you can only use that after 4 cities taken. So this is just a fantastic way for like. Sometimes, like, if you want to, that's a way to ramp up the difficulty as well, because if you put a human brain behind the Dead King instead of just, you know, like, just this mindless automaton moving slowly but surely towards, you know, doom, you know, it adds that aspect where they are able to make, you know, smart choices as far as what's going on and what's the best thing to do in any given situation. So another way that you can change up the game and play it and keep it fresh and awesome. So ultimately, I love the game just because it kind of combines the things that I love. It combines my love of D&D, RPGs, that sort of thing, with a really, really good group experience. Yeah, you know, and as I said, it works both ways well, having somebody control it or just my daughter and I having fun and playing it. And also my hardcore D&D group really enjoyed it as well. I mean, it was like, it's one of those things where you succeed, people are cheering, where you fail, you're kind of laughing, and you're like, we needed one good roll out of you, why couldn't you pull that off for us? You know, things like that, where, you know, it's definitely like, when you're losing but you're smiling and having fun, I know that it's a good game, because win or lose, it's promoting a fabulous experience for everybody at the table, and ultimately that's what you want out of playing your games. So there you go. So that is Hexplore It. I'm going to show you this cool picture instead of showing you the rule book. So that's Hexplore It. If you have any questions at all, ask away. I'll be happy to answer those as best as I can. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, and until next time, I'm the Undead Viking, telling you to have yourself one heck of an awesome day. All right, bye-bye.